Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Ryan, aka Ryantist the Scientist. I am on a mission to empower and inspire everyone with knowledge and fervor of the natural world. Maybe you have some questions, and that's great. I'm here to answer them for you. So let's do that together here on another episode of Ryantist the Scientist. Hello, my fellow earthlings, and welcome back to another episode of Ryantist the Scientist. Today I have a really cool question from Roxanne about queerness in the animal kingdom that I'm really excited to dive into. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Roxanne.
Hi, my name's Roxanne. I have a question about queerness in the animal kingdom. I feel like people always reference examples of gay penguins, but I haven't heard about a lot of other gay and queer relationships and maybe family structures in the animal kingdom. And so I was just wondering how common it actually is and what, if any, other types of animals form or display gay or queer relationships. Thanks.
This is a really exciting question because the world is certainly nowhere near the cisgender heterosexual binary that many narratives would have you believe. In fact, queerness is incredibly common amongst our fellow living things. So first, let's talk about and explore queer ecology. So what is queer ecology? Basically, it examines the natural world and biology to articulate and document how the prevalence of these ideas of human exceptionalism and anthropocentric concepts of, quote, natural and unnatural, and other dualities like that don't exist in the natural world, but rather that life is more in a state of a continuous state. So the idea of natural comes from the human perspective of nature and not from nature itself, if that makes sense. So during the period of time where all these scientists Linnaeus and Darwin were studying and laying the foundations of modern Western science, they were laying these foundations through this anthropocentric heterosexist lens. But because thoughts are allowed to be expanded upon and that new evidence can be added to these ideas, we can build upon our understandings of biology to include new information. New to us, just information that exists that we are documenting. So queer ecology understands that society's norms around gender and sexuality are actually very harmful to the earth. And queerness can offer us as people a different and a new paradigm for our relationships between ourselves, our fellow human, and our relationship with the natural world as earthlings. So what your question is really digging into is queer ecology, and like you're asking about the existence of behaviors and tendencies that in the animal kingdom that extend beyond this like rigid idea of heterosexuality and binary as being quote normal or natural. And that is all a human ideology and a human perspective projected onto our surroundings, and frankly it's just like simply wrong. There's plenty of evidence that is readily available by using like your eyes outside, or like reading into any of this, that shows that nature is queer as hell, including the penguins, but also so much more. So I actually think it'd be a good idea to explore the animal kingdom a little bit, like you mentioned, but also to go a little bit further than that and look into the plant and the fungus kingdoms a little bit as well, to show just like how prevalent this queerness is in like all of life. So in the animal kingdom, so same-sex behaviors in the animal kingdom, it's been observed in 1,200 different species of animals. 1,200. So that includes the penguins, like you mentioned, but also giraffes, starfish, albatross, bats, terns, lions, dolphins, hyenas, salmon, dogs, rams, koalas, and humans, just to name a few of them. So there have been studies that have been done to observe same-sex tendencies and same-sex tendencies in animals, and one of the groups that was studied was rams, and they had been found to have consistently about an 18 to 22% of all rams are actually bisexual. And in giraffes engage in same-sex behaviors at like a tremendously high rate. So 94% of sexual encounters in giraffes are same-sex interactions. Lions, big, ferocious, masculine lions, but also lionesses, also engage in same-sex behaviors, same-sex interactions. So lions will court each other over the course of several days and form like deep bonds with this same-sex partner before engaging in same-sex sexual encounters. Additionally, on top of the same-sex behaviors, some animals like clownfish will actually change their sex in order to reproduce at different stages of their life. So it'll go from male, which male being defined as producing the gametes that are small and numerous. Sperm is what makes you male. So it will change from that to producing gametes that are larger and less numerable, and those are eggs, and that is what makes you female. So a clownfish will change depending on their life stage for the purposes of reproduction. It's also not uncommon for there to be intersex animals to be observed, having both male and female secondary characteristics, secondary sex characteristics. Like recently in Pennsylvania, I think it was. Yeah, Pennsylvania. There was another intersex songbird that was found having both male and female secondary sex characteristics, including colors, but also reproductive organs. In the world of albatross, females actually have groups that they will habitate together, engage in sexual activity together, and will reproduce with males outside of this group, and come back to the group and raise their young together as a group of females that are digging each other. So in the fungus kingdom, this is actually really, really crazy. So brace your minds. It's actually not really crazy. It just really, it's good evidence that challenges this like binary idea. So in the fungus kingdom, there is one really, really glimmering example of just how like fragile this idea of binary is. So our idea of like what male and female, our idea that male and female are the only sexes, can be like tossed aside when it's compared to other species in life. And for example, in the fungus kingdom, there are many, many species that have like literally thousands of different sexes. Thousands. So just one of those species, Schizophyllum commune, has over 23,000 different sexes that each individually have unique behaviors. So since animals evolved to possess like organs that are used specifically for reproduction, the vastness in our diversity is limited. It's not limited to a binary, but it is limited. Unlike the kingdom of funguses that has evolved, that has not evolved this limiting factor. So it can have a tremendous more amount of diversity. So what does this tell us? It tells us that like within our own limitations of having evolved specific organs for reproduction, that variability is still to be expected, because that's just how it is. There is vast variability in the presentation of sexes. This carries over into the plant kingdom too, because in the plant kingdom, it's wildly common for plants to have both male and female sexual organs. In fact, most plants in the world are like this. These are called monoecious plants, having male reproductive organs that produce pollen or sperm, the plentiful and small gametes, and female reproductive organs possessing eggs, the larger and fewer gametes. So the trait of having just one set of reproductive organs, male or female, is called dioecious, and most plants have both. So most plants in the world are monoecious, so they have both. And some plants, like ginkgo trees, which are like super ancient plants from a really, really long time ago, they, like the clownfish, can switch. They can be male and then switch to female and then switch back to male. So ultimately, the narrative of normal, when it comes to normal in quotation marks, when it comes to sexual behavior, sexual orientation, gender binary, gender expression, the human born idea of binary heterosexual or heterosexual centric ideology, this is the minority in the world. The world is vastly more fluid and more powerful and more impressive, frankly, than the idea that it just is what it is because that's the way that it always been and that's the way it always will be because I saw a thing once. That's like a superhuman thing. And this idea is like it's a super destructive force of human ideology that it's proven itself to be bad for humanity and bad for the world. So if queer ecology is something that sparks your interest because it is really, really cool, and like these are just a handful of examples in an ocean of examples that challenge this idea of a like heterosexual binary kind of world. I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the show description or the show notes and the descriptions for you to read up on because there's a lot to see out there. And I encourage you to dive in a little bit further. But, you know, ultimately, it's super common. In the animal kingdom particularly, there's so many species of animals that have same-sex tendencies. And then even beyond that, there's so many animals and plants and funguses that have that exist outside of the binary. And, you know, that's just the way that it is. Our thoughts about it are simply the minority. And like, we're starting to see that be challenged more and more and more, even in science, because science says that it's just not true. So thank you, Roxanne, for calling into the show. It means a lot to have the support of people listening and interacting with the show by calling in with your questions. And thank you all for listening. The support is truly tremendous. You know, you can show your support in a lot of different ways. Listening is a really, really big one. But you can also support the show by giving it a follow wherever you're listening to your podcasts. So you can, you know, tune in on a regular basis, say hi, how's it going? You can also support the show on Patreon. I have a Patreon for as low as $3 a month to keep the show alive, the lights on, and everything kind of running. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is exciting and pretty cool. Leave your reviews of the show. That actually makes a tremendous impact in this world of internet and math and algorithms and all that fun stuff. I actually think that I might start reading the reviews aloud and who they're from. I think that'll be kind of fun. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in and listening and supporting the show in any and all the ways that you do. It means a lot and it matters. So until next time, thank you and stay curious, my friends. If you have questions that you would like to ask, call into the show. That phone number is 347-470-4144. Again, 347-470-4144. And remember, there are no questions that are too big or too small. Music for the show was created by Julian Giamma. I want to say thank you so much for working with me to create such a fun song, and thank you everyone for listening and for supporting the show. See you all again next week.